Dude, this is like constitutional porn. I just want to warn you. You might hear some sexy music in your own head. You might be like, oh yeah, ding dong, pizza delivery. You might hear that. This is the most amazing thing I have heard any president ever say. This is Donald Trump.
That's quite a standard.
I want you to make a list, okay? When he says, oh, and I'm going to do this, just make a list, okay? This is his plan to end the censorship cartel.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple. Just like dominoes, one by one, they'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans. And reclaim is a very important word in this case because they've taken it away. In recent weeks, bombshell reports have confirmed that a sinister group of deep state bureaucrats, Silicon Valley tyrants, left-wing activists, and depraved corporate news media have been conspiring to manipulate and silence the American people. They have collaborated to suppress vital information on everything from elections to public health. The censorship cartel must be dismantled and destroyed, and it must happen immediately. And here's my plan.
There you go.
First, within hours of my inauguration, I will sign an executive order banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor, limit, categorize, or impede the lawful speech of American citizens. I will then ban federal money from being used to label domestic speech as mis- or disinformation. And I will begin the process of identifying and firing every federal bureaucrat who has engaged in domestic censorship, directly or indirectly, whether they are the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Health, Human Services, the FBI, the DOJ, no matter who they are. Second, I will order the Department of Justice to investigate all parties involved in the new online censorship regime, which is absolutely destructive and terrible, and to aggressively prosecute any and all crimes identified. These include possible violations of federal civil rights law, campaign finance laws, federal election law, securities law, and antitrust laws, the Hatch Act, and a host of other potential criminal, civil, regulatory, and constitutional offenses. To assist in these efforts, I am urging House Republicans to immediately send preservation letters, and we have to do this right now, to the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, and every Silicon Valley tech giant, ordering them not to destroy evidence of censorship. Third, upon my inauguration as president, I will ask Congress to send a bill to my desk revising Section 230 to get big online platforms out of censorship business. From now on, digital platforms should only qualify for immunity protection under Section 230 if they meet high standards of neutrality, transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination. We should require these platforms to increase their efforts to take down unlawful content such as child exploitation and promoting terrorism, while dramatically curtailing their power to arbitrarily restrict lawful speech. Fourth, we need to break up the entire toxic censorship industry that has arisen under the false guise of tackling so-called mis- and disinformation. The federal government should immediately stop funding all nonprofits and academic programs that support this authoritarian project. If any U.S. university is discovered to have engaged in censorship activities or election interferences in the past, such as flagging social media content for removal of blacklisting, those universities should lose federal research dollars and federal student loan support for a period of 5 years and maybe more. We should also enact new laws laying out clear criminal penalties for federal bureaucrats who partner with private entities to do an end run around the Constitution and deprive Americans of their First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment rights. In other words, deprive them of their vote. And once you lose those elections, and once you lose your borders like we have, you no longer have a country. Furthermore, to confront the problems of major platforms being infiltrated by legions of former deep staters and intelligence officials, there should be a 7-year cooling off period before any employee of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DNI, DHS, or DOD is allowed to take a job at a company possessing vast quantities of U.S. user data. Fifth, the time has finally come for Congress to pass a digital Bill of Rights. This should include a right to digital due process. In other words, government officials should need a court order to take down online content, not send information requests such as the FBI was sending to Twitter. Furthermore, when users of big online platforms have their content or accounts removed, throttled, shadow banned, or otherwise restricted, no matter what name they use, they should have the right to be informed that it's happening, the right to a specific explanation of the reason why, and the right to a timely appeal. In addition, all users over the age of 18 should have the right to opt out of content moderation and curation entirely and receive an unmanipulated stream of information if they so choose. The fight for free speech is a matter of victory or death for America and for the survival of Western civilization itself. When I am president, this whole rotten system of censorship and information control will be ripped out of the system at large. There won't be anything left. By restoring free speech, we'll begin to reclaim our democracy and save our nation. Thank you, and God bless America.
Wow.
I mean, that is the first thing that strikes me on that is just how different it was than 2016. That's not a guy who's just like walking in. I don't know. Who should we pick? Like that's somebody who has a plan.
That's one of the exciting things is this is so detailed. Even just what he said, there's much more than this behind each one of these, and so much thought behind all of this. This is a guy who has sat there for at least the last 2 years, probably the last 4 years, going, all right, I get a second chance. What do we do? What do we do? This is the most comprehensive thing I've ever heard a Republican president ever lay out. Now, the Democrats do it, but usually they do it in a bill of about 3,000 pages, and you just don't find out until after. It's like the Happy Meal bill.
Right.
And you're like, wait, is this for Happy Meals?
You mean like the Inflation Reduction Act?
Yeah, kind of like that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, look at the list.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
Going after the federal employees colluding to censor speech
and put them in jail,
taking the federal money and away from people who are kind of walking that line and drawing our guardrails on mis and disinformation. That's
that. What was that name of that organization over in England that we helped start?
Yeah.
All the people that were involved in that. Bye-bye.
And I think like a lot of the people on the left and the media will take that as like, oh, he just wants to be able to say conspiracy theories and not be fact-checked. And that's just not. The truth is that the federal government should have no role in that.
None.
It's up to, you want to have a media organization. It's not going to stop ABC News from doing misinformation reporting, as dumb as it might be.
No.
It's just going to stop federal money going to that process, which is totally appropriate for a country that has a First Amendment.
Correct.
Prosecuting crimes that happen. I'm sure they'll say this is punishing enemies, but in reality, if you commit a crime, there's supposed to be a consequence.
And this is a constitutional crime. Government getting involved in freedom of speech. That's a constitutional crime.
And sending preservation letters so that these suits can go forward. So they're not like clearing out, deleting all these files now before he gets into office. Right. That's tough, and that's going to be, by the way, not something he can do personally. That's going to be something senators and such.
That's why he said they have to send that right away.
I mean, look, all of this I think is good. Is there any part in there that makes you at all nervous? There's a couple points in there that I could see going the wrong way if we're not careful, which is rewriting Section 230.
Yes, that could be dicey.
That could be. There's nothing wrong with rewriting Section 230, but you have to be careful with it.
Well, what he said is,
I think what he said
as long as you have quality,
high standards of neutrality.
High standards of neutrality. You have to qualify for that, and you should ban things that are illegal, child porn, terrorism, things like that. So,
that is theoretically already there, but we have really loose standards on these companies for enforcing it.
Yes.
It's basically like if you get multiple requests to take some material down and you can be in trouble. But generally speaking, like they don't have to take action to go get the stuff. They have to just wait for it to be reported to them, and then they have to do it after that process. But the process, of course, is really weak, right? You have millions and millions and millions of posts going up. They would argue that it's impossible to get to all of it. Oh, well. Oh, no. Maybe you don't get to be as large a company.
Right.
Maybe you know what? I mean, look, my, of course, fantasy here is that maybe this doesn't work within the law and the social media companies just go away. That would be tragic. That would be terrible. Now, of course, Max Zorin of Zorin Industries, if you go back to A View to a Kill, the documentary from 1985.
I believe that was a James Bond movie.
Actually, he advocated for explosives under the earth that would cause a earthquake that would flood all of Silicon Valley. Now, he didn't get to that, unfortunately. I was waiting for that as one of the action steps for the new Trump administration. Didn't quite get there. But I mean, maybe that's step 7. We'll get there eventually.
The Digital Bill of Rights is so important.
Yep, that was interesting.
I mean, what's interesting about that is you have a right to go without an algorithm. Love that.
And it's interesting because Europe has a digital bill of rights. I would assume it's not going to look very much like the Trump one.
Think so.
But it is. First of all, there are some similarities. It's like you own your own data. That is a big part. That's the concept behind the European one. Some of those concepts you could say are good, and I'm sure will be brought over. But also just the idea that you don't have to be manipulated by this. Now, it's tough because you should be able to run a website that you own.
Yes.
Right? Like the Blaze should not need to go neutral and give all sorts of information from the left, right? Like we should be able to do what we want to do with our own website. Right. Now, there's that distinction between publisher and sort of curator, a social network, that I think will probably be the line there. But that, again, the details matter on this stuff. As we've seen over and over and over again, if you don't get that exactly right, it could be a problem. But I mean, that's what the process will be for.
I think the idea, first of all, you're a public square now. This is where people. I know, but it's digital.
I hate the public square argument.
It's digital now.
I know, but
nobody gets on their soapbox and we're walking in our town square and we see somebody stand up and say, "I want to give a speech."
Well, if you want a town square, then it's like, then make a town square. Well, these are companies that have spent their own money on this stuff.
I understand.
I just feel like they should be. Look, there's a lot here that I understand and I think is a good thing. Making essentially just turning giant private companies into utilities makes me very nervous.
No, I'm not saying.
I mean, should Elon Musk have to deal with all that?
No,
he bought the company.
No.
When is the next government? The next time the Democrats get in control and they take this public square and they make their own rules with it, makes me really nervous. I get what he's saying. I think we'll be able to walk this line, but let's be honest that we have to walk a line here and just be careful here.
I agree with that.
Okay.
But you have things like an algorithm. You have a right to unmask. I don't have a right to necessarily know their algorithm.
Yeah.
But I do have a right to say, you know what, I don't want you filtering stuff. Why don't you have a right to do that?
And this is the sort of thing that they should have just done.
Yeah, it is.
It wouldn't have been an issue if they just did it.
Yep.
It would have been easy. They should have just had an off button, but they couldn't bring themselves to do that because they wanted A, money, and B, to control the public opinion.
How many people will their eyes be opened if you have that? And you just say, just unmask it. Just unmask it for a week. See what you see. Be pretty amazing.
Yeah.